We are spinning and spinning. I think we're on. Hi, guys. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this live Facebook. And I'd like to introduce my personal training coach and specialist. He has over 20 years experience. His name is Doug Sklar. He holds a master's in exercise science along with multiple other certifications, including performance enhancement specialist, distance running, and Spartan race coach. So he's also the owner of Philanthropit, which is a goal-oriented, results-driven charitable group model. Doug always had a passion for health and fitness, and one day he decided to turn that passion into his career. And so today he masters helping others like yourselves achieve their personal best. So I would like to give a warm welcome to Doug Sklar, better known as Coach Doug. Welcome, Doug. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Good, good. So I have to ask you, so the beard, is this like a pandemic look, or is this something that you've always had before?
It comes on and off. This is probably the longest it's ever been. So yeah, in this case, it is pandemic related. I don't know how much longer it'll last. It's uncomfortable underneath the mask.
Oh, really? Yeah.
In fact, so I might be could be gone tomorrow for all we know.
I'm noticing that now during the pandemic, like all the guys have all this extra facial hair. Just because you can. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
You must know that I happen to be a kettlebell. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of the kettlebell, and it's really given me a lot of benefits for myself and healing, and just kind of a good all around, core workout for myself. And I am a lover of dangerous hiking. Love hiking. Yeah, yeah. So I got to tell you, even when I coach my clients, as a life coach, I always, if they don't really know what they want to do to stay active, I always, have them do that self-inquiry. Like, what floats your boat? What do you like to do? It doesn't have to be inside a gym. You could take things actively outside, right? And do things, in the wild. It's, sky's the limit. So in fact, we were chatting a few days ago, and you mentioned that you were also a physical education teacher, and I saw that in your bio, and love that. So was this your initial choice or path of choice to be a teacher, when you were going into the fitness world?
Well, I think it was. If I look back, I've always worked with children. I was a day camp counselor, sleepaway camp counselor, traveling summer camp counselor. I've always been involved in sports. I've got 3 brothers. Dad was a PE teacher for 31 years in New York City. Wow. And, you combine all of those factors, what better way to do what I love and be able to share that with children and students than take a role as a teacher and follow in Dad's footsteps as a physical education teacher.
Yes. It's interesting. There's always, I'm actually going to ask you that question, the age question. We know that at a certain age, you shouldn't be personal, doing strength training, but certainly there's so many things, and you would know of all people. Share with us what are great things for children, during what ages to stay active and keep their bodies healthy.
I think get them started young, teach them, share with them a passion for fitness and health and wellness so that they develop an appreciation for it. One of the things that I try to do in my classes with my students is to not just teach them the content knowledge. I want them to develop a passion for fitness, health, wellness, sport, activity, and living an active lifestyle so that by the time they graduate, they can do a couple of things. One, they can walk into a gym on their own without having to pay somebody like me to train them. They know what they're doing. They learned this in their PE class. Second, I want them to not just know how to participate and how to have a healthy, active lifestyle. I want them to be motivated to want to live a healthy, active lifestyle. We talk a lot with the kids about the difference between lifespan and health span. You know, you could live to be 100 and spend the last 30 years of your life bedridden, or you can be up and active and moving around well into your later years. But that starts now. Learning to take care of yourself now, learning to appreciate your body. And I'm not the only one who says this, but it is one of my favorite sayings. We shouldn't exercise because we hate our bodies. We should exercise because we love them.
Oh my goodness, I'm so happy that you said that. I feel like that I say that all the time. It's something that we do because we love ourselves. It's because we want to we want to express love even with our bodies, and it's just like what we're putting even into our bodies as far as food, the same thing as far as our sleep at night, everything that we do that revolves around, the physicality. And then of
Absolutely.
course going into also, body, heart, and and spirit. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because another thing I'd like to kind of highlight or underscore what you said is that, you know, we we have to start this at an early age,
Mm-hmm.
moving and loving to move and finding those things again that that bring us that desire to move, uh, like at an early age. Because as we get older, as we know, the older we get, things start to just, age just starts to happen. But we can really defy that. And when we don't move, we rot, right? And we have to like wake up for life, don't we? We can't just wait until we're not feeling well to start doing something about it. It's really in a lifetime of loving ourselves and preventing, things from happening as a result of not loving, right?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah.
So happy you said that. And speaking of love, I first learned of you through a dear friend of mine who I love, actually two friends, who engaged in one of your Spartan races. Before I ask you my question, though, can you just explain to our listeners what is a Spartan race?
Sure, sure. Spartan race is an obstacle course race, oftentimes confused with mud runs. Different, though a mud run is more of a shorter distance run with some mud along the way. A Spartan race is designed around obstacles. Many of them take place on mountains, ski resorts in the warmer weather, some in the colder weather. But along the way, if you're covering anywhere from 3 to 26 miles, along the way, you're climbing ropes, you're dragging heavy things, you're pushing things, you're pulling things, you're crawling underneath barbed wire, jumping over fire. It's a challenge. I'm coming from a running background. I was a marathoner, I've done 18 marathons, done some triathlons, and the, when I loved doing all that, and I still have the utmost respect for people who participate in that. But when I made the change into the obstacle course racing, it was a totally different challenge for my body. I was able to actually use something that I was missing, and that is, to be blunt, like upper body strength. I was missing that from just running. I liked the challenge of I've got to get myself from here up there using nothing but my arms, a little bit of legs, and work my way up to the top. I've got to lift up something that is really heavy, that is sometimes
Yeah.
half, sometimes two-thirds my body weight, and carry it up a mountain and bring it back down. And then I still get to run because that's part of the course, part of the race also. So the short answer to that question is Spartan race is an obstacle course race. You have a start line, you have a finish line, and you have a whole bunch of things along the way that you've either got to get over, under, through, or around.
Great, great. And this is exactly what it appeared like to me. But I wanted to, you'd explain that as the professional. What's interesting to me is it really reminds me of my favorite way of training myself. You remember, like the hunter gatherers, the men would go out, right, and they'd be
Mm-hmm.
carrying everything and cutting things down, and
Mm-hmm.
so this is the type of training that I love. I don't know about the mud, but I guess I can get used to it. That when I watched my girlfriend, who she had engaged in one of those Spartan races, and also her girlfriend, um, I remembered watching her, climbing the ropes and getting up,
Mm-hmm.
that slanted wall and going over, and you name it, just everything under the sun as far as the obstacle, and seeing her do this. really, it really, and seeing her drive while she was doing it was really very overwhelming to me, where it really brought me to tears. She was just in remission from her breast cancer, and just just seeing her really, really just participate and and do it and love what she was doing at this time. Um, what would you say the percentage of people that do participate in these races? What would you say? How many of them really have a strong why or reason behind what they're doing or why they might participate in such a Spartan race?
I would say to put a percentage on it will be challenging, but I would say that there are a lot of people who might sign up on a Monday for a race on a Saturday. Ooh, that sounds cool. Let me give that a shot. Uh, there's uh, these races can be safe and injury free, but not many people are going to, on a Monday without training, decide, ooh, there's a marathon on Saturday. Let me sign up today. Say, that's crazy. We need time to train. So, say those who do that, what's there to do this weekend? Oh, 10-mile race up and down a mountain with obstacles. Yeah, throw me in. Great. Probably don't have much of a why connected to it other than that sounds fun, and more power to them. Good for you for getting out there. And they are fun.
Yes.
The ones who sign up and train, whether independently or have a plan, they put a plan together. Like, there's a finish line 3 months from now. I want to cross it. They usually have some type of why connected to that. What is the purpose behind why you're doing this? That's something that we get into a lot with our training, where we look at goals and what people are doing things for. And anytime training gets tough, which by design, training should get tough at times, physically and mentally. We want to allow the athletes to get to the point where they start to question, oh my gosh, is this something I really want to do? This is excruciating right now. All I have to do is stop and it gets easy. So what we're trying to get them to connect to, in addition to just the physical training, is everything you just said, like, this is tough. All I have to do is stop. You can apply that to life. So right now you have a decision to make. Yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's uncomfortable. So you got two things you can train yourself to do right now. One is to quit. The other is to persevere. Which one are you going to choose to do right now? And that ties directly back to their why. Why are you doing this? Are you doing this to show your children that you still got it or you never lost it? Are you doing this because somebody told you you never could? Are you doing this because you've always aspired to be an athlete, but team sports were never really your thing, so you wanted to try something on your own? You're doing it to just recapture that lost youth. And for those who are not seeing a video, I just did air quotes on the lost youth thing. But an important component, though, is just connecting to a reason why you're doing this. When you have that connection, it becomes so much harder to quit and so much easier to persevere. So the percentage, how many have a why, how many don't, I really wouldn't be able to put a number on that, other than to say that if you do have a why, you give yourself a tremendously greater chance of success.
Yes, yes. I so align with what you're saying. I can't even tell you. I so align with what you're saying, and especially, even as an author and a coach, I always say, and I actually live my life this way, is we really, unless we're willing to be uncomfortable, we're not going to succeed. We're not going to, hit that goal. We're not even going to come close, really, not really. And
No.
and when you're doing something like this, what I would imagine or what I would suggest to people is that this be your one thing now for that you're working on, right? And for me, in my methodology is really until your one thing is completed, everything else becomes a distraction, right? So it becomes a way of yeah, you start to really begin to go through the process of training your body and working your way up to something like this, almost like you did, I'm sure, when you were a marathon runner. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
not something you just go and you just run a marathon. It's something where you really going through that process and starting to really train the body to do this. And I just align with everything you're saying. You know, and what really takes me back when I was watching this is most of what I remember, what I recall is usually there's like two teams or whatever, right? But or however many teams there are, there's
For
probably
Spartan Race,
yes,
for Spartan
yes.
Race, the race technically they're individual races. Everybody has starts and they have their own starting time and their own finishing time. You cross
Hmm.
the timing mat and your individual time ends. But generally speaking, there are large groups that go there with the group, and that's one of the things that many of the people that I train do. And Linda, in particular, and her friends, they decided beforehand. We talk about this also. What is your approach to the race? Are you there to just get to the finish line? Are you there to be competitive? Do you want to be competitive in your age group? Would you like to be competitive overall? And then, we sort out the individual participants based on that. And
Hmm.
if there is, which there typically is, a group that says, no, I want to finish. I want to challenge myself and see that I can do this. Great. 5 more people on our team want that exact same thing. So,
Ah, because you know, I love this because what I noticed was that, and what really totally took me back was watching the other people in the team
mhm,
rooting for the
yeah.
one that's just trying to get over that wall and is feeling like super challenged, you know, while you were up there and a couple of other of your trainers are up there trying to like help
Mhm.
and assist. And just, you know, it was during those toughest challenges for them, you know, personally, and which I could really appreciate as, you know, a coach that really teaches um, compassion, because what I saw was not just teamwork, but I really did see the love and compassion in the participants that were engaging together. And it was really uplifting.
It was for me also. And that clip that I recorded of Linda actually making it up the wall was one of my most talked about, and people talking about how inspirational it was to see her accomplish that. I don't think she realizes how inspirational she is to me. I mean, she's a two-time breast cancer survivor, running up and down a mountain, and the battles that she's already been through. To me, I'm like, this is nothing. But she's out there creating creating a physical challenge for herself that she doesn't have to participate in. She could have been sitting
Yes.
at home on the couch, but she's out there doing it. And the way the team, like you said, the team rallies together. We call it a team. You can still participate individually, but we're still going to be rooting for you. If you're miles ahead or miles behind because you decided you wanted that individual challenge, we're still cheering for you from start to finish. And but the experience over the months that we train together creates that bond that
Mm-hmm.
translates to the course where it's all for one and one for all. Like, leave no man, woman, or child behind. We're in this together.
Yeah.
You're struggling on an obstacle, we're struggling on an obstacle, and we're going to make sure that together we all get through it. And
Yeah.
I mean, it's fun to see. I get to see all sides of it. I have athletes who want to be competitive, and then gun goes off and they're gone, and I get to enjoy and appreciate that part, that competitive drive, and I get to enjoy and appreciate the teamwork and the camaraderie and the bonding and the companionship. Like you said, it's a wonderful thing to experience.
Yes, yeah, that self love and that collective compassion, if you will. And
Mhm.
I wondered if people realized also how emotionally healthy this sort of event truly is, right? And not just, you know, even in maybe a personal struggle that, you know, you're going through, or a challenge that you're going through personally with your health or emotionally or mentally, that even, you know, even like with this current pandemic, we're all in this global pandemic, right? We're kind of
Mhm.
all in this the same story, if you will, but you know, but how it affects each of us is all little sub stories, right?
Yes.
So, you know, now we're at a time where we might not be able to get out and do these things together, outside together, but now we kind of take this pivot collectively also, where we have the opportunity to gather in the digital world, much like we're doing here, and really getting to share and really getting to, you know, spread more insight and ideas and love, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
The Rudolf Steiner School in New York City. It piloted its first obstacle course, I believe, in the United States. First obstacle course of its kind in the U.S. that you spearheaded. Uh,
Close.
Tell us about that and
As a PE
correct me.
teacher, sure. As a PE teacher at Steiner, I piloted a high school physical education class called Spartan Race Training, and then we were able to take the class as well as the members of the track team that I coached out to participate in several Spartan races. I believe I'm no longer at Steiner, but I believe in my last 3 years there, we did 3 or 4 races together. So it was students, teachers, some of the parents of the kids participating, and really an awesome experience where we all got to, it was on the course. It wasn't teachers and students. It was team working together, start to finish. And it was universally agreed, we're all in this together. I even had some of the adult members of my outside team that I coached come on out. So yeah, that was a fun experience. And now we're doing that at the school that I'm currently at, Dwight, where I'm going to be opening up those opportunities for students to participate in in some of these races as well. All things being equal, obviously the pandemic is playing a major role in these events like anything else. So it might be a little while before we're back out there on the course, but the community of racers is strong and the desire to get back out there is strong. But above all, it has to be under the right circumstances where precautions are taken and everybody can be safe and looking out for each other. So yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely a challenge. It's going to be an interesting experience to see how this plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What would you say to those listeners today who struggle to see physical movement as an integral part of their health, physically, mentally, emotionally?
I would say, well, I would ask them to look back on what the reasons for that might be. Being a PE teacher, I've found, unfortunately, and I've done this through very informal surveys during back to school night where parents are in, asking the parents if their memories of their physical education classes were positive or negative.
Mm.
Usually we get, about half and half. Some were positive, some were negative. And then the follow-up question, how many of you participate in a healthy, active lifestyle now? And almost invariably, those who enjoyed their PE class and their school experience, hand goes up when asking about whether they're maintaining a healthy lifestyle now. So my concern as a teacher now is the root cause oftentimes is something that happened when you're younger to make you believe that this is not a good thing, that exercise might be punishment. This is something I've actively spoken out against for quite a while, where coaches using sport as punishment, using exercise as punishment. In classes or on athletic teams, like, you make a mistake, you speak out of turn, whatever it is, and the coach says, all right, go do a lap, go run a mile. Like, you punishment. I mean, this stuff goes back to, the 50s and 60s. It shouldn't be taking place in PE classes in 2020. It shouldn't have been taking place in PE classes in 2000. It still does. It's disappointing that sometimes the people within the profession who made a choice to teach this stuff to kids, sometimes without being aware of the negative effect it can have. Kid is misbehaving in class, go run. Do 10 push-ups before you can come on back in. As far as I'm concerned, I tell the students this, that's a reward. You don't get to do push-ups if you've been misbehaving in class. Why? That is a benefit to your body and your health. I want it to be presented to them in a positive way. The movement, strengthening your body, strengthening your heart, and strengthening your emotions, all of that should be viewed as a positive. And there are little things that we can do to view it in our own minds as a negative. For example, and a lot of people are guilty of this. Like, how was your workout? Oh my God, it was brutal. It's a term of endearment, but at the same time, it's reinforcing an idea in your own mind that exercise is brutal. Now,
Totally,
the next
totally
day
agree.
comes, yeah, so the next day comes around, the next time for your workout, And that memory, I was absolutely brutal last time. There are loads of people who would thrive off of that and say, that's what I want. That's what I want. But if we look around at the world and we look around just in the United States alone at the number of people who would be considered, who might have health complications due to a lack of activity, if they're viewing exercise as brutal, oh my God, I'm dying. Oh my God, I can't breathe. Oh, it's, it can easily turn people off of it. So,
Yes,
I'm a
yes.
firm believer in, especially with beginners, ease them in, treat them with kindness, compassion, and care. And especially in the early stages, they're not so concerned with how much you know as a trainer or coach. They are more concerned with how much you care. So,
100%. 100%.
so I
Yeah.
want, yeah, so I want them to see that. I want them to experience that. I don't care if you can do one push-up or 100 push-ups. What I
Mhm.
care about is, are you doing your best? Are you challenging yourself? Somebody might be capable of doing 100 push-ups, comes on and does 20. Somebody who's capable of doing two, squeezes out 2.5. Who put in more effort? Two and
Yes.
a half for sure.
You
They
might
went up 100.
appreciate it's so true. I was just going to say you might appreciate this. I raised a son who's 22 now, Doug, and I always raised him. Uh, are you doing the best that you can, or did you do it the best that it could be done? And I always suggested to him I wanted him to do it both ways, the best that he can and the best that it can be done.
I like that.
And yeah, and I'll tell you, all the way until he was a wrestler in high school.
Nice.
And yeah, talk about building character. Because you were a wrestler, didn't you wrestle? Or no, no, you didn't
Yeah, I
wrestle.
did. I
You
did. I
didn't.
did a long time
But
ago.
you understand the
I
sport.
did.
You definitely understand it,
I'm
right?
still, until pandemic, been
Good.
practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So,
There you
that's
go.
from wrestling base. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you'd be surprised as like a wrestling mom, as a female, because we have these labels that people put on us that we're a little softer. But I
Mhm.
mean, his knee was so crushed. I mean, he was at the very final, it was during counties in Hofstra.
Mm.
Last year, he's graduating, and he just wanted to kind of get through this without, and he had, it was bad. And he had another match to go or two.
Mhm.
And, one of the wrestlers kept getting at that knee, and he literally couldn't use it. It was immobile. So during, he was out and icing it in another room, and I go in there and give him some Advil or something. He has this ice pack, and he had one more match to go, and that was it. The end for the whole entire year, right? And it was the counties. He
Yeah.
said, "What am I going to do, Mom?" And I said, "Go out there and strategize. I want you to wrestle like you have like a stump. Like pretend you have one leg. Keep that leg away from your opponent. You do the best that you can." And most moms would have said, "Don't do it." I said, "Go out there." And this kid has learned adversity. I mean, even when he was in, he broke his wrist a couple of times in the middle of summer, and you know, the year we get the in-ground pool, all of that. And I said, "You'll learn how to swim with your arm up out of the water." Like, so he learned how to overcome adversity.
Right.
And so, again, are you doing it the best that you can? And are you doing it the best that it can be done? And so it's the same thing. And I love the way you talk about that positive reinforcement. And as it's so true, so many teachers and parents, they use that, they'll use something that's physical as a punishment. It's not a punishment. And I get it. And that's why, you know, I am going to suggest that you try and change that paradigm. Change it across the board in teaching. I mean, seriously, I completely get it. Question:
Yes.
is it about winning?
Depends on your definition of winning. Is it about wins and losses against an external opponent? For some. I'm a firm believer that winning is internal. Everybody has different challenges that they're facing, and there's a lot of stuff going on in the mind that we don't know about. So somebody could join the wrestling team, say, and not win a single match all season long. But for that person, joining the wrestling team could have been such a monumental step and a monumental change from the path that they were currently on, to try something different, to step out of their comfort zone and experience something that under normal circumstances, or say a year ago, they never would have considered doing. But they did it, they stuck with it, and they finished it out. To me, that's a win. Is it a win on the scoreboard? Maybe not. Is it a win on the scoreboard of life? I believe so, because there are lessons you can take from that and transfer those to your work life, your family life, your emotional life, and beyond. So, is it about winning? I would say internally, sure, because we all like to win.
I love that answer. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. You know, also, what is your take on? I'm going to tell you a quick story. I talk about this in my book, Truth to Triumph. Um, and I write about it rather, and sometimes I talk about it in certain talks, and my journey in domestic violence and some of the pain and suffering that I endured as a battered wife. And so one day I literally had my neck just snapped back, and it felt broken. I don't know if that's the physical term to it, but or the scientific term to it, but it was completely dismantled, which really resulted in my C3, 4, and 5 with no space in it, no spaces in between at all. It wasn't slipped discs, it wasn't ruptured. It was literally bone against bone. I can't even explain the pain. Like I couldn't even lift my head without grabbing my hair with my hand. And the reason I bring this up is because so I was told by multiple surgeons that specialists that without a doubt, I needed to have cervical surgery and possibly more than one. And the plan was that they wanted to put spaces in between my vertebrae. And of course, anyone talks about cervical surgery or spine surgery, it's the scariest thing in the world, right? So I had numbness all the way down to my fingers, like all day long, not just when I was sleeping. And they said it would only get worse in time. This was in 2013, when they said I needed to have this surgery, and I was going numb all the time. And so what I did was I I recalled one of my favorite and inspiring authors and mentors. He's deceased now, Stephen Covey. I don't know if you know him or his story. And he wrote, "Don't deny the diagnosis, but defy the prognosis." And I never forgot that. And he was supposed to die from this crazy rare disease, and back in those days they didn't have what we have today, and they put the children into homes basically to die. He lived until I believe his 80s. And so I decided to self-heal, and I meditated, and I sent loving energy to every single molecule and DNA in my body and every single vertebrae, and um, I visualized myself feeling and being healthy. And in time, I completely healed, completely.
Wow.
And yeah, and back to working out in a way that was recommended and strengthening, my entire spine and everything else that was affected because of that as well. The shoulder, the hip, it was like everything was, you know how that goes, the transverse, how everything just affects everything else. And so I'm a firm believer in healing our body. I'm a firm believer in that our body really truly is designed to heal itself. What are your thoughts on self-healing and corrective workout regimens?
I believe that wherever possible, allow your body the time to heal itself. Catastrophic injury and illness, I'm, I can't sit here and overrule medical doctors,
Right, but
but
generally, or
yeah, generally speaking, if you have a little bit of like I've got aches and pains in my body that my my elbow. I was told that I needed surgery on my elbow. This was a little over a year ago. At the time, well, for those who have the video, they can see that this was the range of motion I had. I couldn't get any closer. And I was about, let's see if I had about that and that. And that
mm-hmm,
was really all I could do. I
mm-hmm.
was told that it required surgery, and maybe I still do. But now, without getting the surgery, I've got full range of motion,
Full range of
still
motion.
participating in jujitsu pre-pandemic and before time,
Yes.
but no surgery, nothing. I decided, I was a little wary of the potential complications, potential side effects. I said, you know what? It hurts, but let me see. And now there's no pain, no discomfort, nothing at all. Doesn't
Yeah.
mean down the road maybe there will be, but for now, if it's this, fine, or a knife,
Yes.
cut
Yeah.
me open, I'll take this. I'll take the range of motion that I have and the injury free on its own.
Absolutely. Without the surgery, I feel I'm just a firm believer in that. I just really, really know, and I say this all the time. I know that I know that I know that I know that the body really wants to be healthy. It really wants to heal. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a matter of that connection, right? Like we were talking about before. Like how are you really connecting? What's the narrative that's going on in your mind? And what is your heart actually listening to? Just kind of connecting all of that between your body and your heart and intuition and really making that work, to really have a physically healthy body.
Mm-hmm. I'm also, this is related to that, really a firm believer in taking care of your body before the injuries occur to give yourself the best possible chance to heal and recover fully after an unfortunate injury or accident occurs.
Yes.
It's, the healing process is a lot more difficult if you haven't been taking care of your body to begin with. So, you know, there's a saying, if you don't have time to exercise now, time being the number one reason that people give for not making exercise part of their life. I don't have time, which is kind of separate. But the saying, if you don't have time to exercise now, just make sure you have time to be injured or ill later.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. I know it. Again, here we go talking about time, but this is a preventative to this is something that we're doing as I call it like for me, like when I'm coaching people, I talk about what are we feeding ourselves? What's that daily bread? I call it like soul bread. So this is really like soul bread for the body, right? It really is. And it's to prevent us from, again, the whole purpose of this podcast, really to prevent us from losing our shit when all of a sudden, something happens like a pandemic or like a sudden illness or like a sudden, death in the family or like a sudden anything, any life situation. So what are we going to do when we're in the midst of a life situation and they're always sudden? We don't plan them.
No.
How do we really navigate through all of it without losing our shit? And that's by taking those steps for a lifetime, or at least starting today to prevent tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
to prevent things from happening 10 years from now, 5 years ago, 1 year from now, right? And this moment, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What are
Absolutely.
you working on right now? Anything particular?
Uh, right now, from a life perspective, I ordered a ukulele, an ukulele a little while ago. I have no musical background whatsoever. I can't read music. I dabbled with the saxophone in sixth grade. I think that's it. But you know what?
I love it.
We have a little extra time right now.
Of
So
course.
working on that over the last almost 3 years, I've been pretty passionate about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the
Mm.
wrestling roots, and just finally doing something that I've been putting off for a long time, and I absolutely love it. And I love the community and the people there. It's interesting because it's a fight sport,
Mm.
and the people that I fight with on a regular basis, on an almost daily basis, pre-pandemic, are some of the most amazing. I like to say when I'm there. I have no friends in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, only brothers and sisters.
Mm.
And I absolutely love that. And then from a business uh, perspective, now the big shift, I had been making the shift for the last 2 years to online training, where I'm able to share what I do with more people around the
Mm-hmm.
world. I've got clients in Croatia, in Germany, in France, in Russia, all of whom I wouldn't have if it wasn't for the online platforms. And obviously now it's becoming a bigger and bigger thing.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yes. I'll tell you, and this again, this is one of the positive things that is coming out of the pandemic is, yes, it might have kind of paused us all of us and affected all of us. However, this is really our time to really exercise that creativity that we all really have and own. Just like now, what can we do? What can we come up with? How can we pivot and come up even stronger? And help more people. I always say, unless you're really what you do is not serving others, find a way to use your passion to help others and serve others in whatever way that might be, right? So,
absolutely.
yeah. So with now that it's digital, think that that we can really come together, like even you and I really can speak now more to the
Mhm.
masses, right? Instead of
Yes,
me going and speaking to maybe a room full of people, we can speak with hundreds and thousands at a time, and ultimately a billion,
yeah.
hopefully. So we want to really get that out there. So I think it's an amazing time to grow and help and serve.
Yes, it is. And speaking directly to what you said about using our passion to help the community, uh, call it a shameless plug, call it what you will. But part of what I do with the business with Philanthropy, it's philanthropy and fitness combined. So we regularly hold benefit workouts. We call them the PFIT Special. We held a few back in March, and we were able to raise over $1,000 for three animal-based charities. And next Wednesday, May 27th at 7 p.m., we're holding a Choose Your Charity benefit workout in which participants can say, hey, I like this charity. Can you support them? Sure.
Great.
So, yeah, all 100% of the proceeds from those PFIT special workouts are donated to charities. So that workout next Wednesday, May 27th, it's online. Anybody can do it around the world.
Very nice. There's the plug-in, everyone.
Mhm.
Now, listen, how can our listeners support you, Doug? How can they contact you? What should they do? Philanthropit.com, or what's the website?
Yeah, philanthropit.com, spelled like the word philanthropy, cross off the PY at the end and replace it with fit. So philanthropit.com. We'll have the information about the benefit workout up by tomorrow morning. And yeah,
I love
join
it.
the workout. It's basically it's being set up as a suggested donation. Donate what you can. We know a lot of people have been hit very hard financially by the pandemic, so we want the workout to be available to everybody. So
Yes.
kind of on the honor system.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been hit really hard, you still want to participate, come on in. We'll send you the Zoom link and we'll let you join us. If you have the means to make a small contribution, please do. And then we'll be distributing that all of the funds raised to a variety of charities based on the input of the participants.
Great. Thank
And the only,
you.
the only restriction to the charities that we donate to are we just need to double check that the money is not going to line a CEO's pockets. That the money is actually going to a practical purpose, and that the organization is actually a legitimate charitable organization that's really helping to make a difference.
Great. You heard it here, Doug, making sure taking those extra steps and precautions, which we all always appreciate. Thank you, Coach Doug, for joining. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Beyond the Current Situation. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share the insight and share the love. And of course, subscribe to Beyond the Current Situation. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Bye.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.